from that project. But the biggest part of it is that the legendary Kevin Bond himself had production work, so many other credits that he had with that project, and there's many more artists that he's worked with. But I wanted to play that song. And guess what, everybody, on the Artist Stage Radio Show, I am talking to right now the legendary multi-Grammy award-winning, Stellar award-winning music producer, songwriter, Levite, everything else, Mr. Kevin Bond. How you doing, Kevin?
Tracy, how are you? I'm well.
I'm doing pretty good. Sorry we were giving you some applause there, because just for all the great things that you've done and your accomplishments.
Oh, thank you so much. You're too kind.
You're welcome. Well, thank you for joining me on the Artist Stage Radio Show. I really appreciate it, Kevin, and I appreciate you for being so nice and kind towards me, and just your communication you've always been so genuine. And I know I know you don't have to do, I'm sure you do it because that's the type of person you are, but I know you're a busy person, so I just want to say thank you for that as well.
It's my pleasure, and as industry people, we must always understand that we're in the people business, so it pays to be nice, and we're really called to it.
That's so true. Well, Kevin, first thing, you are one of Chicago's own. Many people, I'm sure they know that don't know, you're from Chicago, correct?
Born and raised.
But now you live in Atlanta.
I do. I've been here 16 years now. In August, it'll be 17 years.
Okay. And also, so this is at least, I know it's well over 35 years for you as far as since you started in the music industry, because you started, was it first with Edwin Hawkins?
Well, I started with all of the Chicago artists, from James Chambers and Ecclesiastes to Ron, Ecclesiastes Community Choirs that are known as ECC, and then I worked with Ron Ellison and Straightway, and then Chicago State with Larry Woods. Oh, wow. And my father was a pastor there in Kankakee, Illinois, so we played at his church and ministered with him for 12 years, Mount Calvary Baptist Church. So it started there, and then God gave us favor, and we connected with Edwin Hawkins through. There was another group that we were working with, the Fluker Special out of the Kojic Sixth Jurisdiction Church. And I was playing with them one night when I had a chance meeting with Edwin Hawkins, and he invited us to tour with him, and the rest is history.
Now, you mentioned some people at the top of your statement. You said James Chambers, Ecclesiastes. That's dear to my heart, because James Chambers, was my godfather, and I know my mother, Ferranda Williamson, Ecclesiastes, ECC, Ron Ellerson. I think Regina Ellerson is watching. Ron might be watching. So that I'm well connected with the people that you say you first started with.
Yeah, it's important. Every part of our journey is very important. That's why I tell younger artists and those of us that are trying to matriculate through this industry that don't abuse anything. All these bridges are very important. You're going to need those bridges. And each one of your experiences is a stepping stone. And it's very important that you learn that lesson while you're in that situation, even though you may be questing to do something greater, and you're desiring and hoping and praying for something greater. Don't despise. The Bible says, don't despise. Who shall despise the day of small beginnings? Mm-hmm. Stay where you are. Allow God to work with you where you are, but learn all of the lessons while you're there, because you're going to need them as you move forward.
I hope you guys are listening to what he's saying, because it's great wisdom. You don't want to despise small beginnings, or even you don't want to look at it as just being small, because you never know how it may grow. Now, also, Kevin, I have so much information on you just from learning who you are and knowing who you are from your production work, which I don't know if you know, on the Artist Stage Radio Show, we talk about things that happen before the stage, on the stage, and off the stage. And you are definitely an award-winning producer and songwriter and musician. And I'm sure there are artists who are listening who may want to connect with a producer now. They may be unsure of how to do that, because you've worked with Marvin Sapp, Bishop Jakes, Kirk Franklin, Yolanda Adams, I'm trying to think of everybody. Edwin Hawkins, and you recently worked with Avery Sunshine on her new record. I'm trying to think of everybody. Donnie McClurkin, and the list goes on. But my question is, for those who are listening, what would you say would be most important prior to hiring or connecting with a producer?
Well, first of all, have a plan in mind. A lot of artists come without a plan. At least have an idea what you want your career to look like. If you don't, someone else will steer that career for you. And you may end up placed in a box and set along a string that you're unhappy with. So it's very important to know what style of music you like, what genre of music you like, what style, up-tempos, ballads. Do you sing better with praise and worship styles? Is that your goal? Are you a choir-oriented person? You need a larger group behind you? Are you a solo artist that you just do things by yourself? What is your plan? You have to have a plan, and then you have to have a purpose as well. Who are you trying to reach? Who is your target audience? Are you going after the youth? Are you going after the young adults? Are you going after the millennials? Are you going after the older seasoned saints, as we called it? Who is your target? Are you going after choirs? Are you going after the praise and worship community again? Are you going to be a Sunday morning type singer who's going into different churches? Are you going to be out in halls and concert stages of that nature? Because all of that is very critical in the choice of music that is going to be produced for you. Many records that are produced right now don't work on Sunday morning. So outside of possibly radio playing it in certain markets, because that's another misnomer, that because it's a gospel station, they'll play your music. Certain gospel stations only like certain types of music. So you have to do a little bit of homework and know what your purpose is and who's your target audience. All of that is very critical.
So I hope you guys are listening. So you're definitely saying don't assume that the music you're putting out, that it would be played on radio or it could be just for church. So kind of understand where it falls. That's what you're saying, what category it falls in.
Exactly. And then now you have to also think about, are you going to put out physical records, which is actually a CD that's in somebody's hand, or are you going to do digital only? Are you going to collaborate with the producer? Are you going to bring your bag of songs or your bag of tricks and you guys collaborate and work to make the songs the best they can possibly be? Or are you just going to basically dictate to the producer and try to get him to do exactly what you want? And honestly, I must say that you really don't get the best out of producers when you do it that way. Many producers are very, very musical people. We're not just what some people call nowadays beat makers. We're actually very musical people who understand and understand the theory of music, understand how music works, understands the industry in and out. We're publishers, we're songwriters, and we've come through the musical game and grown in the industry in such a way that we can actually help artists. The way I actually tell artists, Tracy, is that, and the way I teach in workshops as well, is that we are the final step before artists hit the stage. The producer is really the last one who has maximum input and impact on the artist. We're sitting in a room with them for hours. We're talking for hours. We're working together for hours. We're working through concepts, coming up with different strategies. So it's very important that you find somebody that you can connect with, someone that you can trust, somebody that you can build relationship with, build camaraderie with, and then also ultimately be able to put out a great product.
Now, prior to, in the midst of them communicating with the producer prior to putting out the music, do you think it's a good idea for them to submit song styles? Like if they wanted to go with a Earth, Wind and Fire type of vibe, would you think they should pull music from that era and send it to the producer so they can hear where they're going, or should they just assume or kind of just communicate it verbally? Which do you think is good to do, both or one of the two?
It's not either or. It's definitely both and. You communicate it verbally. You may send tracks. You may send titles. And then I'm a hands-on type producer. I like to sit in front of the person and find out if this is someone I can connect with as well, because the relationship goes both ways. It's not just them hiring you. You're also agreeing to work with them. So there has to be some camaraderie on your end and some the ability to be able to to understand what it is they want from you, but also to be able to communicate your ideas to them clearly.
Got you. Hope you guys are listening. And also, I'm going to put in on the Facebook comments, you said that the producer has maximum input and impact on the artist. That is huge. And then you all being the final person, the final stage before it reaches consumers and listeners. Now also, Kevin, from the producer standpoint, what about, is it, I guess what I say, is it proper etiquette to maybe go and sit and listen in on a session that a person, maybe a producer, is working on prior to hiring them? Or is that not cool? Is that, would they feel comfortable doing that, or should you communicate that, or does that happen?
It doesn't happen. That's taboo. I use an analogy that the studio is like an emergency room or like a delivery room, and it's a very sterile environment, and you don't want anybody in your delivery room while you're giving birth. Mm-hmm. So if I'm working on another artist, it's very doubtful that I'll invite another artist to sit in on that session, because that's encroaching upon that particular artist session and their time of delivery and birth. So you have to be very cautious with that. Most producers will not do that. What we'll do, though, is we could meet them in a studio. I've done that with a few people. Some people I'll bring into my home and work there. Others I'll take them to a studio and work with them there until we build that relationship. And then that kind of gives you an opportunity to see how they react in that environment. Can they turn it on? Can they become that artist in that moment, or are you going to have to coach them through that? And it's a very tricky and slippery slope, because while you're possibly coaching another artist, you definitely don't want to have another artist sitting there trying to ascertain what it is that you're doing.
Okay, that's good information. You said it's like an emergency room. They're giving birth. It's a very sterile environment. These are great tips, everybody, that he's given, and great wisdom. And it's helping me too. I mean, not just me too, but I'm taking all this in, because I sometimes I wonder, is that proper to sit in, or ask a producer if you can sit in on a session, or is it not proper etiquette to ask? And it makes sense what you're saying. You want to be really careful with that.
And it's not good. It's not good even to invite a lot of your friends and your crew to your recording sessions either, because that actually makes you become something that you're probably not. When you're on stage, you're not going to have 15 people unless you're in the rap game behind you, egging you on like that. So you have to get used to being able to react, read and react, they call it in basketball and in sports, to be able to read the situation and react to the situation. You have to be able to do that on stage as well. So it's good for you to have that one-on-one, to be able to take instruction from the producer, to trust the producer, so that to know that he has your best interest at heart, and he's working to try to get the best possible product out of you, but also to get the maximum impact of your talent. Make sure that we take you to the highest possible level that we can. And I can't do that if your crew is looking at me asking, why is he talking to you like that? Why is he criticizing you? You sound good to me. I don't care what those folks say. I'm more concerned about one-on-one relationship that I'm trying to build with the artist. And that's really the goal.
This is great. All of this information is great, because you're right. That happens where artists may bring their friends in, and they're sitting in the session, and because they want to, kind of, showcase what's going on, and they probably don't mean any harm, but like you said, it can be harmful to the project and the artist, and even the relationship that you, the producer, has with the artist. Now, Kevin, I have a question. If you could go back. Huh?
Yes, ma'am.
No, if you can go back.
It is harmful.
It's harmful to them?
I actually had and I'll let you get that question.
I
worked with a legendary artist. I'm not going to say her name. I'm
okay.
going to protect the guilty. But I worked with a legendary artist, and she literally came in with an entourage of about 8 people. And normally I would ask them to sit in the waiting area. She asked us to actually set up chairs in the vocal booth for them.
Oh, wow.
Totally taboo. But because this person is an icon, and this is probably the way this person has been working for the last whatever number of years, we obliged and we allowed them to do what they do, but it did change the dynamics in the room, and it made it very strange for me to make requests of the artist, because every time I made a request, she had to say something to her crew first.
Oh, wow.
And it just changed the whole dynamics, and it made a simple session turn into something very complex. So that's really one of the rules of studio etiquette. Even if you bring your friends and family, you have to let them know that you're really a fly on the wall. You're not really to talk. You're supposed to really be silent, unless you're an industry person. If you're an industry person, and you really trust their judgment more than the person that you're paying to produce your record, then okay, let them do that. But if you really want the best out of your producer, let them produce.
Now, did you have to go back and fix a lot of things because of the entourage that was in the room? Did you have to, like, say later on, now we have to go and do this the right way? Did you have to correct a lot?
I didn't. What I did was just built it into the overdubbing process. Overdubbing is when you get multiple tracks from the artist. You may have them sing the song several times. But what I did with that artist to basically end the moment and to get through the moment was have them do multiple takes so that I knew that I had what I needed. And then I allowed them to leave.
So you were thinking
the track and got exactly what I needed out of it.
You were thinking really quick in the moment. So you were in a moment and you was thinking ahead and thinking in the moment, because that's a pretty cool, I don't say trick, but you were grabbing stuff and they probably didn't realize why you were doing it at the time, but you were thinking quick.
It's a very delicate process, and people think studio is just fun, it's exciting, it's a place to go hang out like an amusement park. It's not. It's a work environment, and they call it records for a reason. A record is something that's going down in history. Record. Think about it. It's not. We think about recording, but no. Think about record. You have medical records, you have legal records, and you have musical records. This is going down in history. So what's happening right now in the year 2017 is going down in history, and people in 2027 are going to be looking back at this moment saying, wow, this is what they archived. So it's going down in annals of history. So I take it very seriously, and many of my colleagues do the same. And we protect that environment, and we have to protect that environment, because if you don't, it'll get out of hand, and it turns into something silly, and then you end up with a record that you're not very proud of. In a couple of weeks, we're going to have the Grammys coming up. You want to make sure that your peers are watching and paying attention to your best work. You don't want to put out something that's silly, that's trite, that's banal, to the point that at the end of the day, you're not proud of it.
I want to just go backtrack to when you saying the word record. That makes me feel so much better that I can say record now versus feeling like, am I old for saying record, or should I not be saying this? Because you get the definition for it, something that's going down in history. And that I put it on the Facebook comment section for those who may not know record. And that's big. I mean, to keep that word, understanding what the word means, and not just thinking the record, the vinyl, the record that we put on the record player, but the real meaning of it.
We get so caught up in the tracks. We get caught up in tracks and CDs and in a session and all of this verbiage. But at the end of the day, you are literally making a record. You're making history. And what you do now, as they said in the movie Gladiator, what you do now will echo in the annals of history. So it's very important that we pay attention.
Wow. I hope you guys are listening. This is like valuable gold mine information that the legendary Kevin Bond is giving on the Artist Stage radio show. Now, Kevin, what I was going to ask earlier was, can I take you back almost over 30 some years ago when you worked with Edwin Hawkins? What were you thinking? And because how old were you at that time?
I met Edwin when I was about 18, and I was asked to start traveling and touring with him when I was 19.
Wow. So you were 19, and what was going on in your mind?
Well, it was the first time I'd ever taken an airplane. So number one, that was exciting. Here I was on the grandest stage that I could ever be on. After sitting at the Erie Crown Theater there in Chicago, peering across, watching them on stage, now that I remember, I watched them and I sat there saying to myself, I could do that. And I really believed that I could. And then God favored us and gave us grace to do it. That first particular gig ministry engagement, if you will, was a workshop. It was a ministry workshop, music workshop that he did in Cleveland or Columbus, Ohio. It was my task to prepare the band. That's why I say make sure that you learn every lesson, because I've been preparing bands in Chicago. I was ready for such a task.
Mm-hmm.
And then I had to marry the choir with the band and take over that rehearsal as well and help that in that setting, as well as learn his own material, choir material as well as solo material, and then do a concert at the end of that week. And we only had about 4 days to put all of that together. All I could think of was, this is an exciting opportunity. It's a great opportunity, and I definitely don't want to screw it up. So I lived several years with the mindset of never be the weak link.
Mm-hmm.
In every choir, band, church, organization, there's always a weak link. And it was always my endeavor to never be the weak link, which means put in your time, your practice, your preparation, your prayer, your persistence, and you have patience. You have to have all of these things to be able to persevere in this industry. And that was my mindset. And I took it all the way through the 15, 20 years of working with them.
Mm-hmm. It's something that the statements you just made about you don't want to be the weak link, and basically you want to put your time in. And the scripture that I started out the show with comes from Jeremiah 17:10, where God is speaking, through Jeremiah, and he's saying, God is searching our hearts, he examines our motives, and God says he'll give all people their due reward according to what their actions deserve. And I just think what you just said, it connects and is coupled with that verse. Just putting the time in and putting the work in, and God, he blesses us, and it comes back. And I've seen, just looking at your life and what you've put in and your work. I mean, how many Grammy Awards have you won? Just how many in total?
Our records have won 10.
You said 10?
Yes, ma'am.
That's a lot. Man, that's phenomenal. Can we give him an applause on the show, Will? We're going to give you.
You said something that was very compliment. And if you recall, a couple days ago, I put on Instagram and everywhere that that the scripture or the Spirit can't bring anything back to our remembrance that was never there in the first place.
Wow.
It has to be, to remember is to put something back together again. Is to do again.
Mm-hmm.
Remember, to put that member back together again. And we tend to get on stages and do these things and expect the Holy Spirit to speak through us, or get on the instrument and expect the Holy Spirit to miraculously move through us, and that we're just going to do something that's so incredible that's going to bless the people. But if you have not put time in, if you have not spent time practicing, developing your craft, developing your gift, spending time in your word, as an artist, when the music stops, you're not going to have anything to say. You're not going to have anything to minister to the people. We spend hours and hours on the song, but we spend minutes and seconds in the word. Same thing with the instrumentation. We have to make sure that we spend time with our craft. We have to spend time studying, practicing, preparing, learning the songs in and out. I always used to tell my bands that the song should sing itself even when no one's singing. And if you learn the song without anybody singing, then you always know where you are in the song, and you can be able to start the song and never get lost in the song. But if you only learn the song on the way to rehearsal because you're cramming, then the Spirit really has nothing to bring back to your remembrance, because it was never part of your remembrance to begin with.
Wow. The Spirit has nothing to bring back to your remembrance because it was never part of what you had to begin with. Man, when I tell you are saying some stuff, some really good stuff during this interview, and I'm trying to take it all in. I wish I could just type real fast on the comments on Facebook. I hope you guys are taking this. Definitely, it's going to be available for replay. So I'm going to share it and keep sharing it, and make sure you're tagged in and everything, so people can hear all of the great things that you're saying. But also now, recently, you're part of a new project that's out, Miss Avery Sunshine, and her new record 2064 that you're a part of. How was that experience for you?
It was great. I encountered her in a stage play that one of my background singers, who's now a part of the Hamilton cast, Desmond Ellington, was a part of a show in Atlanta, and he invited me to go. and there was this lady that played this grandmother, and her voice and her delivery and her stage presence and her season, she was just such a seasoned artist. You could tell that she just had it. She had that thing that we just say is that thing. And it was Avery Sunshine. And we connected then, and that was a couple of years ago. And then I want to say my buddy Ron James, who's my saxophone guy, who does all my sax work, an incredible artist in his own right, took me by their studio. Her and her husband have a studio there in Atlanta. And we just started talking about possibly doing something together. And that song was the song. She said she wanted to do a gospel song on the record. She's a church girl. Even though she's doing all these love songs. And God is love, so it's still in line. But she's a church girl. And she said she wanted to do Sweet Hour of Prayer. And she had this other song on the record called Prayer Room. And she was like, can we go straight out of that? I was like, sure. And it was so organic. The moment was very organic because she is who she is, how she works as an artist, and because of how I work as an artist. We clicked like from day one and from moment one. And I just literally sat in the studio and played what you hear. And she said, that's it. And for the most part, we were done. And we came up with the little tag at the very end. But it was very organic. And it just worked and it clicked. And it was something very unique.
And it seems like that's been the how you've worked with artists over the years. Just listen to what you're saying as far as the production and knowing the music that you've been a part of, it sounds that things were organic. And if you said even from 19 years old that your mindset was you wanted to put the work in so that you could, whatever you learned, you could remember. So I'm trying to quote everything you were saying, quote it properly. But you're
doing well. You're doing well.
I'm trying.
Yeah, God has been very strategic in what he's done in my life and my career. And yes, it has been very organic. Wow, from working with, even I remember when I did, even the God's Property record that you just played, and thank you for that. I really appreciate that. That was a huge point in our career. That record came together also very organically. I was never slated to be a part of that record.
Oh.
And this is a pride point that I want to be able to share with people, that if you're getting into this only for the pride of being able to say that look what I did and look at me and see me and hear me, then you may miss it, because those moments are actually few and far between. When I was called in on that record, Kirk and one of his musicians had actually produced the record. There were some challenges with the record, so Vicki went and got another set of producers, and they tried to work on the record. It didn't work either. They had more challenges. So Vicki called me because I had been doing things intermittently with her, and I had really gained it a moniker as the fix-it man. Because I would always fix people's records. Whenever there was a problem, they would call me to fix the record. But what you don't understand about the fix-it man is by the time they call you, the budgets are expended. There's no money. Money is gone. They paid everybody else to fix the records and do the records. So by the time they get to you, they offer you something else to try to keep you to be a part of the record. So basically, she called and I gave my critique, and I came up with about 2-3 pages of notes saying what needed to be done. And she was like, well, darn it, you just need to go on in there and just do it. And I'm going to show you God is strategic, because the moment she called, I was actually headed to Dallas for about 6 weeks to work on a stage play with David Talbot as his music director, where he would write scripts and I would write songs to match the script as he would write a scene. And she said, I need you to come to Dallas. I said, I'm on my way to Dallas. So God had already purposed it and planned it before she even picked up the phone call. So we ended up working with David by day from about 12 to 5 or 6, and then I went to the studio with God's Property from 7 to about 2 in the morning. We did this for about 2 or 3 weeks. Kirk came to the first session and said, he almost did like the Holy Spirit, where the Holy Spirit says, this is my beloved son, hear ye him. Kirk walked in and said, this is the guy that's going to fix this record. I'm out. And he disappeared, and he didn't come back until I needed him to do his overdubs. And he trusted me with the group, and the rest is really musical history. And we were able to do something incredible. The team, not me, but the team.
Right.
From Linda C. Wright and her pulling the team together, and her son now is with Snarky Puppy, Spud. He plays drums with Snarky Puppy. Candy West came out of that group. Myron Butler came out of that group. And, of course, Kirk. And there are several others who are doing some incredible work as well. So it was a team effort all the way around. And it was just, the saddest part about that was that it ended bad because of the money squabbles. Right. And the beauty of it, though, for me was that when we were doing the work, none of that mattered. We didn't care about who had the last $5 for the pizza, because it came down to that sometimes. They have $5 for pizza. I'm putting in $5. I'm going to get somebody from the bus station. It was simple. It was simple. It was organic. And the secret is we have to keep things like that. If it gets too complex, then we miss the big picture. And then we really take our eyes off Christ. The beauty was, in that moment, our eyes were on Christ. That's why we birthed such a great record.
And I like that you're saying keeping our eyes on Christ. I made a statement earlier about the music, and I have a couple questions on Facebook. People are asking questions, and I'm going to throw back to you. But I was given an industry update, and right now, what is in as far as the music industry as a whole, last year it said that music sales and music consumption went up 12.5% from like 5-something million, billion, whatever, to 6-something. But it said that R&B and rap was one of the biggest genres of last year. The point is that I was making a statement to encourage gospel artists and Christian artists and those who sing about God not to become discouraged, because we have to remind ourselves of who we're singing about, and at times that can be convicting to people. And if we don't remind ourselves that we have a job to do, and it's not always pretty, it's not always easy because of depending on where people are in their life, but to keep our focus on Christ, which we won't become discouraged if they may not say that gospel is the best or, things like that, but reminding ourselves of what we're supposed to be doing and why we're doing it and who we're doing it for, which is for Jesus Christ. Versus, trying to constantly compete with other genres of music all the time and forgetting that this is the music industry. So, and we're, exactly. It's not a easy thing at times, and at times it's not always pretty, but like what you just said, keeping Christ first.
You're right on point, Tracy, but the secret is we have to remember that ministry at times will be very messy.
Yes.
And it will be bloody. Jesus gave his life, and it was a bloody mess how he had to leave the earth, but he did it for the greater good, which means that ministry is going to be messy at times. It's not going to be glamorous all the time. Matter of fact, there were only a couple of times in his ministry that it was glamorous. When he stood up to read the first time, and he opened the book and he sat down, when he was out on the boat, and he showed back up on the shore with the fish on the shore, those kind of moments, walking on the water, those kind of moments, the Mount of Transfiguration, high moments. The problem is many of us want to be like Peter and stay up on those high moments, but the truth of the matter is ministry is not conducted in the mountains, on the mountains. It's conducted in the valleys. So we have to be willing to get down in the valleys, and when you get in the valleys, it's going to be messy. It's going to be muddy, but here's the beauty of it. Catch this. Please catch this. Valleys are connected by mountains, just as mountains are connected by valleys. So if you're in a valley now, the only way you can get to another valley is to go over a mountain. So you're going to have high points and low points. If you're on a mountain now, enjoy it, because in order to get to the next mountain, you got to go through a valley.
I hope you all heard that. Valleys, I was trying to type it on there. Did I say it right? Valleys are connected by mountains. Correct, Mr. Bond?
And mountains are connected by valleys.
And mountains are connected by valleys. And for those who are watching on Facebook, we're still here speaking with the legendary Kevin Bond. If you have questions, go ahead and type them in on the comment section on Facebook Live now. Kevin, we have a couple questions. Karen Wooten from Chicago, her question was, have you ever had to be honest, I'm assuming with an artist that you were producing, to tell them you are not ready?
I've had to do that very often. I've probably not produced more artists than I've produced, and that's a tough conversation to have, because it's one of those conversations that you're not moving in a money-driven fashion. You're trying to be honest with the person and let them know that if you get out there right now, you're going to get trampled because you're just not ready. And sometimes it's not that they're not ready. The songs may not be ready. They may call themselves a songwriter, but they're not ready. Their songs are not mature. And they may be holding the songs too close to the vest. I remember Vicky Latte Yard, when I worked at Gospel Centric, she had a saying that you're too close to the picture. You're too close to the picture. You're too close to the project. You can't see it because you're too close to the picture. You have to step back to be able to see it. And some artists, that's the challenge. They're too close to the picture. They can't see it. They think that everything that they birthed is amazing, and they just have not had anybody to tell them that you need to go back to the drawing board. So yeah, it's a tough conversation to have, but I think if you want to have integrity in this industry, you have to be able to have that conversation.
That's true. I like that. It's you too close to the picture. Like you said, they just think everything's amazing, and it's not an easy conversation to have. It's not at all. Now I have a couple other questions here. Jerry Moore, he wants to know what is your favorite song that you have produced? One of the favorite songs that you've produced.
I would have to say and answer that just as I do as a songwriter, and it's always the last one. It will be whatever the last one is, because we live this life in the industry really not so much looking back, but always looking forward. So I wouldn't say that I have a favorite. I probably have several favorites, not really just one favorite, but several of them. But the funny part is most of those records are the records you don't hear, because they're the records that we fall in love with, but the industry, the public pretty much dictates what they like, and then they make that their favorite. So it's not even so much about what my favorite is, it's what they like and what they gravitate to.
So Jerry, I don't know if Kevin's going to give you his favorite song. Pretty much, you're going to have to go through.
It's the last one, whatever the last one is. And I wrote a few songs last night, so right now, that's my favorite song.
Right, so the song he wrote last night that we haven't heard yet is his favorite song. So also this another question. Yeah.
By the time the award shows roll around, and by the time you even win and have an opportunity to win a Stellar, Grammy, or Dove, it's about a year and a half, sometimes 6 months to 9 months to sometimes a year and a half. So you move so far on, and then you get a phone call, or you're at the award show and they say you won, and it's like, wow. And you're so far away from that project that you almost have to go back to it, because when you're in the studio, you literally, as a producer, you're listening to that song a good maybe 300 to 500 times each song while you're mixing it and prepping it to get to the marketplace. So by the time the record comes out, you really don't want to hear that song no more.
Yeah, that's true.
Move on to something else.
That is so true.
And we're constantly, that's why we live in that creative place where we're constantly working on so much different stuff. Because by the time that record comes out, I'm done with that record. I'm moved on to something else. And I'm excited that you guys like it. But by the time, people are really excited about it, we're so far ahead of it that we just keep moving. We keep looking forward and not back.
Well, another good thing is, Kevin, we had quite a few people on here who are joining the Facebook Live, watching, and I'm sure they're tuning in online. The questions are coming in because they know just how great you are, and you're a legend. And I have a couple more questions here. So let's see. Benjamin Moore, I know Ben, he's a musician here in Chicago and also producer. He says, is it a benefit in being a producer versus being a CEO/writer? That's a double question there.
I think he's mixing a few different genres there, or mixing a few different leadership titles. Perhaps he may be asking the question: is it different being a producer than being a writer and a publisher? That
could be a good.
The producer is the guy. The producer is the guy. I use the analogy of being the cook in the kitchen that takes all the ingredients and puts them together and finishes the product and brings it to the table in the form of a CD or a song. I take the songwriter, I take the singer, I take the instrumentalist, I take the musicians, the singers, backgrounds, horns, whatever the case may be, and put them all together and come out with this final product. That's the cook in the kitchen. That's your producer. The songwriter basically is the one that pretty much just births the song. They just sit at home and write the song. They may be in their pajamas all day, and they send an email out, and somebody grabs the song and records it, and you never see who the songwriter is. So I certainly enjoy the process of being a producer much, much more, because you're working with the people, and you're working with all of the elements to bring together the final product. and it's a group effort. A songwriter can actually do that by himself. It's not. It may be a group effort, but usually it's not. In the R&B world, you'll see maybe 5 or 6 names with the publishing piece, but that's usually after somebody has wrote the song, and then everybody comes together and adds to the song, and they get a piece of the publishing, because publishing is what drives the industry. So
exactly, and you know this, how even the difference with gospel and R&B or other genres of music. And on that side, they'll have like 20 writers. With us, and this changed a little bit on this side. With us, you have that one writer, because they'll add, like you just said, the publishing will be connected after the fact, or the songwriting piece on I'll say R&B, which whatever the genre is, they add their writer credit per like track, beat, everything, whatever they put on there, they are a writer. But it's maybe a little different sometimes.
But I will say this though, that mindset in a certain form needs to be adapted in the gospel.
Yes.
Because there are a lot of guys a lot of people who are adding to the process that are not getting credit, that should get credit. The problem is we don't believe in what I call the law of collaboration. They believe in the law of collaboration, and they believe that the pie is much bigger if everybody contributes.
Right.
If everybody doesn't contribute, it basically boils down to one slice. But they have learned the law of collaboration, and it's the law of teamwork as well. So I think that the church world, the gospel music world, can learn a lot from that.
I hope you all are listening. That's true. And we got more questions coming in. If you guys have questions, go ahead and send them in while we're here. We're still on the air. I'm not going anywhere. Kevin Bond, I believe he's right here with me. You still hanging in with me, Kevin, with the interview?
I'm right here.
Okay, so if you guys have questions, go ahead, flood the comment section on Facebook Live. He's here, and I appreciate him being here and giving up his time. Another question we have, Jerry Moore again. He said, is there a song, he says, there a song that you didn't produce that you, I don't know if he may answer this one, but is there a song that you didn't produce that you wish you would have?
Oh, my God, there's a million of them. All of those songs that sell 20 million copies. I mean, you just never know, though, if it's going to hit, though. That's the beauty of this thing. You just never know. I mean, if you want to go back, Jerry, let's talk about the Tonight Show theme. I think Paul Anka did that, the Tonight Show theme, Doc 7. That song was played every night for how many years, and what was the royalty rate on that? Let's talk about Adele, Hello. Let's talk about Sam Smith, This Is. Oh, my God, let's talk about Whitney Houston, I Will Always Love You. Jesus Christ. So many. Let's talk about My Girl, Smokey Robinson's catalog. Let's talk about Edwin Hawkins' Oh Happy Day. Let's talk about Andre Crouch, Jesus Is the Answer. I mean, my God, it's so many songs out there. So many songs out there. So that's what keeps all of us as writers and producers and artists and creatives, if you will, with our pens ready. And we're constantly working to become better at what we do. And if by chance, you have the opportunity to write a song that turns out to be one of those hits, I just pray that when you do, that you give God the glory, even as you try to take some of the credit.
Right, exactly, because we know these gifts and talents, they come from him. Now, I have a question for you, because this still is the Artist Stage Radio Show. And Kevin, I'm really big on artist development and artists becoming better, learning more about who they are, especially because the biggest thing, we're in the music industry. Of course, depending on what you're singing about, you still have to remember it's still a business, and you need to know what type of business you're a part of. Now, you mentioned My Girl, Smokey Robinson. Now, I love Berry Gordy. I loved Motown Days. Quite a few people that I love, as far as including you, Kevin, as far as that are music executives, producers, songwriters. But I really loved Berry Gordy's tactic and how he developed. We took it from Ford Motor Company. The I can't come to my mind right now. Basically, the assembly line approach with artists back in that time. Yes. But the piece that I think was missing, it's just my thoughts, and I'm sure they probably didn't think about it at the time, was the true development of the person. Now, you can't develop people into becoming, we're going to all have, life is real and people go through stuff. But thinking about how life happens and how when you don't address certain things, or at least bring it to their attention, it can cause more of become more of a hindrance for the artist, where I don't want to say their life, they won't have a life of success, but it can shorten the success factor of their career, because they're not aware of the real life things that happen while you're an artist. And I think now, we look back at shows like Unsung on TV1. I mean, for days and days, you can see so many stories about artists on there. But we see how, life happened to a lot of people, not just secular, gospel, everything. Life happens. But I think when we don't address those things when it comes to being on a stage, it makes it a little bit more harder versus looking at it like, hey, okay, you on this stage, but you realize that everybody's seeing you grow up on this stage too. And are you ready for that? Have you really thought about what this means? And you can't control everything that happens. But I think back then, maybe they just didn't talk about it as much, or probably, I'm not gonna say they didn't care, but they weren't aware of it, or just didn't talk about it. It was more, business, money, music, versus, hey, we still living real life too while we on this stage. What are your thoughts? I gave you a mouthful, but what are your thoughts on the importance of being developed, not just as an artist, but a songwriter and producer, because we're still on a stage?
Well, I think you can become, industry-wise, you can become better at being a great artist and put great clothes on it and dress it up to make it look great. But at the end of the day, you have to be able to deal with the person's character, which also speaks of the fact of bringing people and having people in your circle who can be honest enough with you to tell you the truth, even as you reach superstardom. The problem is, as we grow and we become, we usually push those people away, and we keep the yes people in our camps. We have to keep people around that are honest. They may not be family members. They could be people who just grew up with you that understand who you are. That's what I love about LeBron James and his story. Mm-hmm. The gentlemen that he brought into his life and kept as part of his life are guys that when he didn't have a home and his mother would send him different places to stay, he would stay at their houses because they had stable homes. And when he blew up, if you will, became successful, he not only kept them with him, but he also made them successful in their own right, gave them and helped them to be a part of businesses that were successful. So it's what I call team accountability. They're accountable to one another. It's not just they're accountable to him, but they're accountable to one another, because if your situation falls, then all of our situations can fall, and even the businesses that we have separately. So the character piece is very, very important. We don't teach a lot about character in the church. Mm-hmm. Sin has become a taboo, a word that we don't really talk about too much. So we don't deal with the flaws in a man's character. We want to kind of gloss over them, right, and just shout about prosperity and how we can get better and get more from God. But the truth about it is, God can give you more, but if he gives you more, will you be able to handle it?
Yes.
And character speaks to that. You have to have some character to be able to, what is the quote we use all the time, that your gift can take you places that your character
can't keep you. Yes.
So you have to be able to have the character to be able to walk into rooms that you have not been mentored for, but you're wise enough to sit and learn rather than talk your way out of the blessing that God has opened the door to you for.
I hope you all are listening. Team accountability, character. If these things will help you all, help all of us, because you'll probably be on a few stages, but that doesn't mean that your character should go out the door. And earlier I said the declaration for today was don't just be, but become trustworthy. And that connects with character. And it's a process. Everybody told a few lies about some stuff, but the character piece is huge. Now we have a couple more questions. Benjamin Moore says, how do you keep the business functioning while maintaining a relation? Okay, so he's going back with the artist. I think he's going back to the producer part. How do you keep the business functioning while maintaining a relationship with the artist fun? So I think he's saying, how do you maintain balance and with business and fun. Yeah, business and fun.
Well, everything that you do deserves and requires balance. Whether you work a 9 to 5, but you also have a family that you need to maintain. So you have to be able to balance the work as well as the family. You have to be able to balance your church as well as your work. And it's all balance. At the end of the day, it's all balance. And we work for the things that we love. Part of it for me has been to include my family in everything that I do.
Mm-hmm.
I talk my wife through the things that I'm working on. She's aware of who I'm working with, what I'm working on.
Yes.
The time that it's going to require, the sacrifices that it's going to require. There could be great rewards, but there also has to be great sacrifices at times. But the other times, there are also times to keep it balanced that when you're not working on something, that you spend quality time with your family, that you're able to shut it down and do things with the family unit and do things, for yourself, to take care of yourself as well. Don't become such a workaholic that you can also sit and die in your studio because you're not taking care of your body, not taking care of your mind, your health, your physical, your emotional. It's all of those. It's not, once again, either or. It's all and.
Mm-hmm.
So you have to maintain balance and develop balance. Even as you're building your empire, make sure that you don't build it so high that you leave your family and yourself off of the top of the empire.
It's so funny you're making these statements. Last week I had my family on here, my mother and father, to start out the year on the show. And we talked about that, just becoming connected with your family and touching bases with your family before you book that studio time, seeing where you are, what are you guys doing, what's the vision for your household. Obviously you're married, and that's huge. And I'm sure you have experienced so many things as far as, because we both know the music industry is not a 9 to 5 job. This is a 24/7. This is 24/7. And I'm a female working in the industry, so I'm around a lot of guys, and it's just the reality out here. Sometimes perceptions are out there about people, and men and women, and the character piece has to be there. You got to be upfront about why you there. You got to put them boundaries up, let people know, hey, this is what's going on, this ain't what's going on. And if you don't say those things, they'll assume things, and you got to communicate. I hope you guys heard that, communicating with your family, letting them know, hey, I might not be back until 10, but they know where you are. Because if anybody interested in being a part of the music industry, it is not 9 to 5. This is 24/7. Well, you're not up all night, but it can be that way if you're in the studio. Correct, Kevin?
Very much so. Very much so. And try to build in some things where you work from home periodically as well. Everything does not have to be you away from the house in the studio. We now have home studios and portability to the point that now you can do a lot of things in your home. You can do a lot of editing. You can do a lot of tracking and things, programming and such at home. Make sure that you're not using your job as a means to get away from your family because you have some dysfunction.
I hope y'all heard that.
Make sure that there's balance on that too, because I've seen that all the way down the line from pastors and otherwise. They would rather be out with the boys and traveling and doing preaching engagements because they don't like home, they don't like family, or they're not happy with their lives. So make sure that you're not using one as an escape for the other. Make sure that you keep it all healthy, but you also maintain balance.
Maintain balance. Well, we have got so much great information from the legendary Grammy Award-winning, Stellar Award-winning Kevin Bond, he's been producing, songwriting, musician, arranging everything for over 35 years. And he's worked, I'm going to go down the list again. He's worked with Donald Lawrence, Bishop, T.D. Jakes, Kirk Franklin, Edwin Hawkins, Marvin Sapp, Ricky Dillard, Stephanie Mills, Yolanda Adams. I'm sure there's a few soundtracks that you've worked on that I'm not mentioning. Avery Sunshine. I can't remember everybody, Kevin, but I'm trying to remember off the top of my head. He's worked with probably well over 200 artists or more, and not just gospel, in several genres of music. And I'm sure, and I'm more than positive, because of his character, his musicianship, the wisdom, integrity, and I'm sure that everything hasn't been perfect, but he's still working. Well, I thank you, Kevin, for chatting with me on the Artist Stage radio show on Tabernacle Radio. The people are still posting and commenting. Jerry Moore said, thank you for your heart and your gift. You have influenced and inspired so many. Keith Vassar, they're just requoting things you said. Work-life balance is key. Karen Wooten, trustworthy equals integrity. Algernon Alexander, we don't teach a lot about character in the church. That's a powerful statement. He said he didn't think it would be said, but you said it. Ben gave some great questions. We have Charmaine Dupont. She recorded most important law of collaboration. So people are listening, Kevin, to everything you're saying. And this has been a great, great interview. And they're just requoting a lot of the things that you've said on this during this interview. And I thank you. But also, I want to say that one of my favorite songs that you wrote for Yolanda Adams is That Name. How did that song come about?
Well, actually, I didn't write that song.
Oh.
I wrote that song. I wrote In the Midst of It All.
In the midst of it all. I'm so sorry. Please forgive me.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. No problem. No problem.
But the production for That Name.
Huh?
I'm sorry. Say that one more time.
In the Midst of It All was written while I was spending time in Atlanta, just visiting some friends. And honestly, here's the deal. There are times that you can write a song that may not connect with you at a given moment, but you actually are writing prophetically for something that's to come. And that's actually what happened for me in that song. I just decided I wanted to write a song, and I wanted to write a traditional song that day. And I wrote that song in the midst of it all. However, when God blessed the song and allowed it to hit the radio, I was going through a crisis, and I needed that song.
Oh, wow.
So God allowed me to write a song prophetically that 10 years later would bless me and bless the world.
And it has. I mean, we know if you don't know Yolanda Adams or know that record and that song, you're talking about a chart-topping song, and it's still blessing people. And what year was that?
Oh my God! The first time it was recorded was probably the early '90s by the Hawkins family, and she heard it on that record. And she said that was her testimony, and asked me to do it on her record. And it hit the airwaves somewhere around '99.
Wow. And we're now in 2018, and it's still blessing people. Well, I'm excited that you have joined me. I wish I could I wish I was able to type everything you were saying in the comments. I was trying to get some of the statements up there, but we're going to go back and put as much as we can for those who weren't able to listen, but you guys can definitely listen to the replay. But I thank you again, Kevin, for joining me on the Artist Stage radio show. I know you're a busy man. Also, you guys, he's the pastor of worship, minister of music, everything at in Atlanta. You want to go ahead and give them your information for the church that not only do you attend, but how long have you been there? Greater Travelers Rest.
I've been there for over 10 years. I served in that capacity for a period of time. I'm not in that capacity any longer. I've been doing my consulting business, my music consulting business and ministry consulting business, where I'm actually sitting in Birmingham as we speak, finishing up a ministry assignment here that I've been doing for the last 3 years, where we consult with different pastors and ministers and businesses as well, and leadership to be able to build their businesses and build their core values and business structures. And their leadership teams, and pull that together. And for churches, we do the whole leadership model and music ministry model and all of that. Levitical training, the whole nine. My latest venture, as you're aware of, is my company Risk Game.
Yes.
Which is a custom unisex bracelet line that's available online, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook. Risk Game _ Kevin Bond. You can find us everywhere. But we do some incredible designs. Probably over 100 different designs and counting. So we do all kind of custom bracelets. If you're interested, make sure you hit us up. Valentine's Day is coming. We did a whirlwind of business during the Christmas season, and we're here to serve you. So look us up. Instagram is probably the easiest way to see the full product, but it's also on Facebook. If you're there, you can go to Mr. Kevin Bond and peruse the product. If you're on Instagram, it's Risk Game _ Kevin Bond. and I look forward to serving you. Thank you so much. And thank you so much, Tracy, for availing this platform to us and to allow us to get our message out. You're such a historian because you knew much of our story, and I applaud that. Most interviewers don't take a lot of time to dig deep into the history. I used to do that with my show Center Stage when it was online. So it is something that we do and we should do whenever we interview people. Take time to find out their history, and you've done an incredible job in doing so, and I applaud you. Thank you for allowing me to share this moment with your listening audience. And thank you, listening audience, for tuning in. And you can continue to hit us up with your questions. I'll be doing a Facebook Live probably sometime in a couple of days as well. We can also continue this conversation.
Yes, and I thank you. And guys, thank you guys for listening and checking it out on Facebook Live and online. And we're going to go, Kevin, just so you know, we're going to play, after following this interview, we're going to play Yolanda Adams, the song In the Midst of It All, and also the new song, the song from Avery Sunshine's latest record, A Sweet Hour of Prayer. Well, thank you, Kevin. I appreciate this time. And guys, don't go away. We're still on the Artist Stage radio show. And then hopefully we'll be speaking with you again, Kevin, on the show. And you have a great evening and a great blessed week.
The pleasure's all mine. Thank you so much. And you do the same.
You too. Bye-bye. And everybody, we're going to go right now to In the Midst of It All by Yolanda Adams. Don't go anywhere because we got to close out the show. I don't want y'all to leave. Y'all got to stay here as we finish the show.